guess I'm stalling because I don't really know what the message is. I know that Passover is coming next Shabbat, and it lasts till the following Shabbat. And I'm not going to teach traditionally on Passover, guys. I've done that too many times, and the Lord is absolutely not directing me in that. I'm not going to talk about the matzah and the maror, and I'm not going to tell you that Yeshua's birth represents the manna, and Yeshua's death represents the striking of the rock, and the water coming out represents the resurrection. I'm not doing that. That's all online, and we're going to send out an email next week for those of you that want to see those things. I'm going to tell you again, too, there's people that want to move here and want to shadow me. Listen to me. I'm not going to say this again unless the Lord tells me to. If you go through the website and you go through the teaching, you will be discipled like nobody's business. But you want to have coffee with me and tell me about your dreams. And I don't mind hearing that, but that's not going to disciple you. You got to put in the work. This is the way life works. The more you sow, the more you reap. The more you put in, the more you get out. None of you that are successful in any field, in any endeavor, got there by luck. It's the same thing with discipleship. We have it available, and guess what? It's free. Most places you got to sign up and pay monthly dues. I see it all the time, and subscribe, and then you get this, it's free. Nobody's asked you for anything. There's no membership fees. Not only that, but you can copyright it. You can send it out to whoever you want. Our copyright is your right to copy. And you could sit home in your pajamas. You don't even have to go out and be discipled. What I'm saying is, you have no excuse. None whatsoever. It's available. It's available at your fingertips. So there's going to be a very, very, I think, important message. Probably more towards the end of Passover. Probably that Shabbat. I don't even think next Shabbat. But what I'm going to share with you today is just building a foundation to that. But it's going to be, I think, one of the most important things I've ever shared. And so let me give you a little foundation, okay? Originally, I don't title the messages. I never have. I never do because I don't get a title. Look, I don't think there's anything wrong with putting a title together and trying to put something together to encompass that title or to accentuate that title. There's nothing wrong with that. Everybody has a different style. Me, I just hang out with the Lord. And then I get some scriptures, and then I try to figure out, what do you want me to say? What are you trying to say? And so I was up at 2:30 this morning till about 6 saying, what do you want me to say? So we'll see if it works out. Originally, you have to put these titles on for teaching purposes online. And originally it was going to be called Show Me Your Glory. But I'm here to tell you that the Lord changed it yesterday, and it became Show Them My Glory. All right. So this should be a humdinger by the time we get to the third week. Exodus chapter 20, you're all too familiar with. I know a lot of you grew up in church. I did not. But I grew up with the Ten Commandments, obviously. And it even speaks about them in Deuteronomy, calling them the 10 words. They're the foundation of all God's commandments. And if you want to sound really sharp around some theological people, especially those with their PhDs, just call it the Decalogue. Yes. They'll be really impressed with you. Well, I was looking into the Decalogue. Did you say a deck of cards? No, a Decalogue. That's what my friends would say. But the 10 Commandments, they're the core of the covenant stipulations that God revealed to Moses. You must know that word covenant. God is a covenant maker. He's a covenant-making God. Our God makes a covenant, a brit, an alliance for defense. Okay? He makes like an agreement, if you will, a spiritual agreement between he and us. And I'm here to tell you, I don't know how to tell you how seriously he takes that covenant. But if you look throughout the Bible and history, he takes his covenant seriously. Today, people, back in the day, Bill France, the guy who basically founded NASCAR, I used to train his son, they were handshake. If he gave you his hand, it was done. Today, your word counts for almost nothing. I'll take care of it. Yeah, no problem. I'll be there. You got it. And then we have to have all these attorneys involved. And even then, the Ten Commandments basically define the life that the Lord calls his people, us, to live before him and with each other. It was not for the children of Israel. Look, being part of a messianic fellowship, not messianic Judaism in the terms of a denomination, because it's not. I think everybody should live a messianic lifestyle if they're a believer. Because if you're a Jew and a believer like me, or a Gentile and believer like Mike, there's no two sets of rules. There's no two compartments. There's one God, there's one faith. And so it's not denominational, it's biblical. But with that being said, this was not for how the Jewish people were supposed to live. This is how believers are supposed to live. Yeah. And they indicate to Israel how to remain faithful to the Lord. We throw that word faith around. I have faith in God. I have faith in God. That doesn't mean you have faith that he's going to heal you. You have faith that he's going to get a job. When you say you have faith in God, that means you obey his ways. Amen. A person of faith obeys the Lord. We throw that word around. We use it really inappropriately. I trust the Lord. Do you? If you say you trust the Lord, that means you obey him. Amen. Now, nobody obeys 100%. I get it. We're human. We're frail. We fall short of glory. But if you don't even have that attitude coming out of the gate, if you don't even start the race with that to be faithful is somebody who obeys the Lord, I don't know, how the race is going to work out for you, or for me for that matter. They're divided into two sections. One covers love for God. The other one covers love to one's neighbor. This is totally and unequivocally consistent with Yeshua's teachings in the New Testament. Look at the first set of verses. You know this, a lawyer comes to Yeshua, not with the right attitude, but nevertheless, Yeshua still is going to answer his question because that's who Yeshua was. He asks, what's the most important commandment? Now, I don't know how any believer, I'm not concerned about what denomination, ethnicity, could ever think that the law was nailed to the cross. Here you have, Yeshua himself, the teacher of teachers, the Lord of lords, the Mashiach, and he gets a question, what commandment? And clearly, he would have probably said, well, those aren't going to be important because I have a destiny, and you're going to be free from that. That was oppressive. It is the furthest thing from oppressive. The commandments of God are absolutely stunningly gorgeous. They're beautiful. And I think if you asked a non-believer, Mr. Non-believer or Mrs. Non-believer, how would you feel about if your wife or husband committed adultery? They don't know God, but they're going to be like, How would you feel if a business associate stole from you? How would you feel if your child lied to you? Everybody's made in the image of God. We have consciousness. We know what's right or wrong. Now, a lot of us, our right and wrong, not here, in general, have been skewed. You start to walk off course, and before you know it, you're compromising. You're compromising the wrong way. And then you start comparing yourself, not to Yeshua anymore, but to people that are far worse off than you are, and you don't look so bad. Right? Oh, that guy. And what? I can't believe what. Did you hear, on the news that lady, he says you ought to love, your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength. This is the greatest and most important mitzvah, commandment. It's the most important. But then he says, but before, don't leave yet. Yeah. There's a second that's very similar to it. Similar to it. It's almost like it's just like that one. No, clearly to love God is more important than to love your neighbor. What's important about loving God is to love what he loves. And what does he love? You. So if I don't love you, I don't love him. Guys, there are a ton of believers who love God, but don't love people. Now you might say, Rabbi, you don't know what I've been through. You want to compare notes? You're right, I don't know what you've been through. But while you're making a list of everybody that hurt you, make another list of all the people you hurt. You might find it interesting. We don't think about that, right? All the Torah and the prophets are dependent on these, meaning they hang. Every commandment that's in the Bible, it hangs either on loving God or loving people. It's all connected. It's a summary, a foundation, a core. Let's look at the first two verses in Exodus 20. A lot of Jewish scholars consider this a commandment. I don't. I consider it a statement. It says, then God said all these words. He spoke to Moses. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the abode of slavery. So to me, this is a preface to the 10. I don't want to argue with you whether you think there's a commandment or not. He's not commanding anything. It's a statement. And it's a preface to the other 10, or not to the other, but to the 10 commandments itself. Israel's call to covenant faithfulness is preceded right here. And it's based on the Lord's acts on their behalf in a covenant relationship. Israel's obedience to the commandments is the means by which they and we are to appropriate and enjoy what the Lord has already done by delivering us from Egypt and taking us to be his special possession. God is saying, Israel, I heard your cries. You finally cried out to me, and I didn't delay. I took you out, and it was no covert operation. It was overt. I stomped in and I said, they're mine and they're coming with me. And there's nothing you're going to do about it. And every time you try to rise up in one of your godly powers, I'm going to slam your God to the ground and make that God submit to me. And they walked out. They didn't run out. They didn't sneak out. They walked out. And he did the same thing for you, sir. He did the same thing for you, ma'am. And he calls them, beautifully calls them, my treasured possession, my segulot. That is, study that word in Hebrew. That's a beautiful, beautiful word. That means of all the treasures I have, this is my treasure of treasures. He calls them Hebsibah. That means you delight me. He even has a pet name for them in Deuteronomy. He calls them Yeshurun. You're my upright one. And guess what? If you are grafted in, you are his segulot. You are his Hepzibah, and you are his Yeshurun. The Lord will use the deliverance from Egypt to identify himself over and over again throughout Israel's history, to remind them what he has done for them, and that if they appreciate him, then they would live accordingly to his ways. If he is your God, then look, visions and dreams, it's wonderful, but there's nothing better than an obedient life. Make no mistake. I'll just show you one screen with just 3 verses. In Judges 6, verse 8, this is with the great conqueror Gideon, and he's hiding, and Adonai sends a prophet. By the way, we don't know who the prophet is. It's unnamed. I don't think it matters. because if it did matter, we would know who he is. Adonai sent a prophet to the people of Israel who said to them, Adonai, the God of Israel, says, I brought, remember? You're doing your own thing, but remember me? I delivered you. I'm your God. I delivered you from that slavery. Me. And then in 1 Samuel, when the prophet goes to anoint Saul as king, again he says to the people, here's what Adonai, the God of Israel, says. I brought you up from Egypt. I rescued you from the power of the... You were enslaved for 400 years. Enslaved. We were enslaved by the devil, working for him, speaking for him, glorifying him. Maybe you weren't, because you were in church your whole life, right? I wasn't in church my whole life. I rescued you from the power of the Egyptians and from the power of all the kingdoms that oppressed you. And in Psalms, obviously, Adonai, your God, who brought you up out of the land of Israel. Look, here's the bottom line, guys. Deuteronomy says it beautiful in Deuteronomy 7 through 8. It says, Adonai didn't set his heart on you. Set his heart on you. Like, you're my love. You're the love of my life. Some of you are so involved in your kids. They are your life. It's almost to the point where they are your idol. And you think, I couldn't love anybody more. Listen to me. God loves you infinitely more. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Adonai didn't set his heart on you or choose you because you numbered more than any of the people. It wasn't because you were impressive. Today, people connect with people that are impressive. If they have influence, if they have power, if they have money. And you don't even realize it when they're sucking up to you. Always a string attached. Always a compliment to get something. God's saying, no, I don't work that way. I don't manipulate. I didn't choose you because you were vast. In fact, truth be told, so he says, on the contrary, you were the least. Rather, it was because I loved you. That's why. That's not good enough for me, Rabbi. Give me something more theological. And because he wanted to keep the oath which he had sworn to your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that Adonai brought you. In other words, when the Lord says something, it's as good as done. He ain't never bounced a check. If he makes a promise, let me tell you something, buddy. He's going to fulfill that promise. He is covenant making and absolutely positively covenant keeping. He swore to your ancestors that he would bring you out with a strong hand and redeemed you, delivered you, bought you back from a life of slavery on the hand of Pharaoh, the king. Going on in Exodus 20, after we see the first two commandments, and that's all I want to just talk about. Exodus 23 through 6, you ought to have no other gods before me. And don't, listen, if you're a little tired, I know sometimes you stay up late or something, and it's hard to sometimes listen to you just sitting in your chair. Don't be embarrassed if you fall asleep. I always wanted to be a doctor anyway. So maybe I'm acting like a spiritual anesthesiologist, right? It's not too full, so just lay down, take up 3 or 4 seats. You got to get your sleep because, tonight you got to watch that show, right? Get that party to go to, right? You need your sleep. I understand. I'm just trying to help. Trying to enhance your life. You are not to make for yourself a carved image or any kind of representation of anything in heaven above, on the earth, beneath, in the water, below the shoreline. You are not to bow down to them or serve them, for I don't know your God, I'm jealous. Punishing the children for the sins of the parents to the 3rd, even the 4th generation of those who hate me, but displaying grace to 1000th generation of those who love me and obey my commands. 1000th generation is a term, it's an idiom, a colloquialism, a cultural term in Hebrew that meaning forever. It's not literal. Forever. Okay, this is the prohibition. This is the prohibition against the worship of many gods, polytheism, okay, like they have in India. Or against the worship of any god except for Jehovah Elohim. Yes. Monotheism, a beautiful gift God gave to us through the Jewish people. Not only is the worship of idols forbidden, but so is the manufacture of idols forbidden. This includes pictures, images, and statues used in worship. Now look, don't ask me, Rabbi, what do you feel about a picture of Jesus? I don't know. I've never seen him, so I don't know if the picture's accurate. And I've been to many churches, and I can tell you this, there ain't no Jew in the Middle East with blonde hair and blue eyes eating a big fat loaf of bread at the Passover. So at least if you're going to influence your kids with a picture of deity, make it semi-biblically accurate. It does not include all pictures of statues. How can you say that, Rabbi? Easy. In the tabernacle, it contained carved cherubim, right? So be careful when you're all dogmatic in your theology. Be humble. Try it on for size. It's a beautiful thing. God can really use you when you're humble. You think you're being used sometimes, and all you're doing is pissing people off. I just did. Weren't you listening? The commandments undoubtedly refers to pictures and images of deity. I could tell you, if the Apostle Peter or the Apostle Paul came back and saw the statues of them, they would lose their mind. They would literally lose their mind. They would be so hurt. People ask me, do you think Constantine was a believer? No. I was in Rome and saw a 60-foot statue of Constantine. He was no believer, especially since he directed them to make that statue. No real believer makes a statue of him or herself. Ain't gonna happen. God is a jealous God. That means he is jealous of worship and the love of his people. His jealousy, guys, is righteous jealousy of a husband for a wife he loves, not an envy for other people's happiness. There are a lot of believers that are envious. They're jealous, but not in the right way. How come she always gets, how come they get blessed? How come you're asking that? What have they got to do with you? You see that new car they bought? Are you making the payments? How did you get so involved in other people's lives? He's jealous because he gives so much love. He just wants that love back. I'm a jealous husband. Not nearly as jealous as Bernadette is as a wife. It doesn't even come close. She makes believe she's not. It's one of her little ploys. I did find you out because we were just at a wedding. And come on. Okay. The wedding planner, I'm going to the bathroom. This is the most ridiculous thing. And the wedding planner calls me over and she goes, I really like your hair. And I'm like, what? It's got to be the most ridiculous thing anybody's ever said to me. So I'm oblivious. I'm like, okay. I got to go to the bathroom. I go to the bathroom. I come out. And I come out. I said to Bernadette, wedding planner just said she likes my hair. And Bernadette's like, yeah, I know. And all of a sudden, it was like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Mr. Hyde. And I just was like, what's up? And she goes, yeah, she came over to me and said, are you together? I'm oblivious. I don't listen. Listen, first of all, I love the Lord way too much. Secondly, I happen to love Bernadette. I just do. I'm very happy. But, I heard the wedding planning business is pretty lucrative. No, but then she goes, yeah, I told her. That's my husband.
I did say I rent you out from midnight to 6 a.m.
You did? Oh, you didn't. That's what we used to say about our kids, remember? Oh, they're so beautiful. You want to rent them? 12 to 6 in the morning. But no, who wants to share? I mean, let me just tell you something too. For the you that are insecure, don't flirt. It's unbecoming. If your spouse is giving you compliments, talk to them. Find out why. But don't flirt. Don't bring that in. Even that, it's not cool. I don't particularly care for it.
Well, then maybe you shouldn't have been showing off your cool hair.
No, I got to be honest with you. I spend hours and hours. I don't read the Bible nearly as much as you guys think. I don't sit and read the Bible and study it. I don't. Sometimes I don't read it at all. I just stay in the Lord's presence. But I work really hard at that. Like I can come up with a Passover message like that and just, I don't even have to work on it at all. But I was like, Lord, what do you want? And I don't really get much of a reaction. She says something and you guys go nuts. It's illogical. We're going to move on now. You're done. Okay? Exodus 23:13 says, pay attention to everything I've said to you. Be very intentional, guys. You have to be intentional with your walk with the Lord. You have to be intentional. Whether you're a surgeon, whether you're a car mechanic, whether you're a nurse, whatever you do, you have to be involved and conscious in it. Listen to me. I know that multitasking is popular. You're getting less done. You think you're getting more done. But when you're working on something and bing, and you look at the phone and you go back, it takes so much time to figure out where you are. Bing! Science tells us this. Forget about God. You got to focus on what you're doing at the moment. Live in that moment and be very intentional. When it comes to your walk with God, be intentional. Don't just float and say, I love the Lord. Then when you get in trouble, you go into 911 religion. Stay connected and stay intentional about your relationship with the Lord. He said, do not invoke the names. What do I mean by that? You got an ex-wife. Her name was Susan. Your second wife gets pregnant and she says, what do you want to name him? Don't say Susan. You follow what I'm saying? Or that person that stole from you, you don't want to bring him up or her up. Names are important. They have power. They have a connotation. They define you sometimes. If a person believes in their name, they'll walk out their character. Very important, a name. It's better chosen than silver or gold. Somewhere I read that. Don't even bring up their names or let them be heard crossing your lips. I don't want to hear it. God's saying, I don't want to hear it. The Jewish people were forbidden to mention these other gods, these idols. You got to understand, they were almost in idolatry for 400 years in Egypt. That's all they knew. 400 years, a long time. The only way that you can mention their names is by condemning them, as the prophets did. And this isn't just in Exodus. Look at in Deuteronomy 7:25-26. You are to burn up completely the carved statues of their gods. Now, of course, we think of gods as carved statues, as idols, as totem poles. Guys, we have a lot of gods. And you know what? It's springtime. I think we need to do some spring cleaning. Yeah. Don't be greedy for the silver or the gold on them. Don't take it with you, or you will be trapped by it. For it is abhorrent to out-honor your God, meaning it's an abomination, meaning it's disgusting. You know that word? When somebody goes, that's disgusting. That's what God is saying. Don't bring something abhorrent into your house, or you will share in the curse that is on it. Instead, you ought to detest it completely. Hate it 100%. Well, they don't really mean that. Forget it. Err on the side of hating it. Loathe it utterly. This is strong language. I don't know if I can really enunciate as much as I probably need to. It is set apart for destruction. Look at what he's saying. It's disgusting. It's detestable. It's cursed. Loathe it. In 2 sentences, you get all that? Strong. This is, Deuteronomy 7 is dealing with idolatrous nations. They're going into an idolatrous nation, Canaan. All idols were to be destroyed. Why? Because there'll be a temptation. The most serious threat to Israel and the most serious threat to us was not the people of Canaan, but their idols and the gross immorality associated with it. The battles which Israel needed to prepare for were spiritual, not physical. Our battles are not physical. No warring city is going to come into Macon today. But man, the devil will be tempting you as much as he possibly can. Yep. And you're not going to stop him from flying around your head. But you can prevent him from building a nest in your hair. And only you can. Joshua says it, 23:6-7. Therefore, be very firm. Be very intentional about keeping and doing everything. Oh, it's just. Stop talking like that. It's not just. That's not what God is saying. That's what people are saying. Here's a lie I told somebody this week. Oh, it's okay, kids are resilient. Kids are not resilient. In fact, kids are incredibly fragile. And it causes them pain sometimes for a lifetime. Don't listen to what the world says. Don't listen to what the fortune cookie says. Go to the manual. Be very firm about keeping and doing everything written in the book of the Torah of Moshe, and not turning aside from it, either to the right or to the left, not even a little. Then you won't become like those nations remaining among you. Don't even mention the name of their gods, let alone have people swear by them, serve them, or worship them. Last but not least, Psalm 16, verse 4. Those who run after another god multiply their sorrows. You're not going to be happy. You love God, you know God. But not serving Him the way you really want to is going to make you very sad. Because you're not in God, you're not in the world. You're like limbo. You're not there. That's a terrible place to be. You want to be involved with one or the other. When I was in the world, I was in the world. Heavily steeped in the world. And I got all the good stuff I can get out of the world. Sweet pea, you can't do both. You can't serve two gods. To such gods I won't offer drink. I'm not going to give them nothing. This is standing in stark contrast to the true worshipers of God. True worshipers of God and people who worship another god. Idolatry inevitably brings a train of sorrow into the lives of their devotees. And judgment as they become like the thing they worship. Your identity will be tied to whatever you give your heart to. People talk about how I define myself, my identity. People ask for identification. Who you are is directly related to who you give your heart to.
Yes.
Whatever it is, that's how you'll be defined. I heard a very wise statement the other day. Take a look at that next slide, will you? They love it and keep thinking about it, and it overpowers them. You know who said that? Your daughter. When I was sitting with her, and I was thinking about this, I said, how do you become? And she said to me, Dad, they love it so much, and they keep thinking about it, it takes over. Sadly enough, with all this, God is saying, look, I love you. I love you. I love you so much. I love you so much. Don't break my heart. I can forgive you. I will every time, but I love you. I want you. Why don't you want me? You ever see when somebody goes through a situation and they want to break up and it's like, and the person is devoted and the other person isn't, they're like, where did I go wrong? You know, it's breaking your heart. Like, what? I don't understand. I gave you everything. What didn't I do? It's a very sad situation. But I think God feels the same. What didn't I do for you? I gave you this beautiful world. I don't need you to sit and pray all day or read the Bible all day. I don't need you to do that. I want you to enjoy your family. I want you to enjoy life. I want you to go and do. But don't forget who freed you from the enemy. Don't forget me in the midst of it all. I love you. I love you so much it hurts. And all this he's telling Israel. Be careful. Be careful. Those gods are going to get you. It's not that I don't want you to have fun. I don't want you to get hurt. They're going to ruin your life. They're going to chew you up and spit you out and then make fun of you. They're going to say, look, stupid, stupid person you are. I won't do that. I'll never hurt you. I'll never lie to you. I'll never manipulate you. Never. I'll always be straight with you. And everything I tell you to do will be for your benefit. I'm the lover of your soul. I'm even the lover of your soul. How many people do you hear when you meet in a bar and they go, you know, there's something, I just love your soul. And sadly enough, idolatry breaks out. We'll just do a couple more verses and then we'll move on next week. I think you'll get a really beautiful message out of this. Exodus 32, here it is. When the people saw that Moshe was taking a long time to come down from the mountain, they gathered around Aaron and said, get busy and make us gods to go ahead of us. Now, we are quick to judge them, but I'm just saying, I wonder how many of us, after being enslaved for 400 years, you know, who are going through the wilderness with no food, don't even know where we're going, don't know why we're going, and then our leader goes up on a mountain, and it's day 40. I'm sure some of us would have said, you know what, make us an idol after day 3. I mean, they're probably thinking he's a goner. No, it's a long time to wait for somebody. He didn't say, hey, I'll be back in 40 days. He didn't tell him. Because this Moshe, the man that brought us up from the land of Egypt, we don't know what has become of him. Aaron said to them, have your wives, sons, and daughters strip off their gold earrings and bring them to me. The people stripped off their gold earrings, brought them to Aaron. So they're impatient with Moses' delay. They ask Aaron to make an idol because that's all they know, idolatry. He meekly complies by converting their earrings into a molten calf, which obviously was forbidden with the first 2 commandments we read from Exodus 20, verses 3 through 6. They broke out in revelry. They start worshiping the idol. They're eating and drinking, and they're probably playing immorally. They profess to be worshiping the Lord through means of the calf. You've heard that on some holidays, right? Well, I'm not worshiping the... If it didn't mean that much to you, then why do you go crazy if we take it away? God blessed his people with gold when they left Egypt, but the blessing turned into a curse. How many people do I know take on a job for another 40 grand and 40 grand and their family falls apart? Yes. And now with the extra 40 grand, see, it's so much better because before they were in a, 4- or 5-year-old car, but now they're in a new car, and that's changed the dynamic of their family tremendously. Not everything that glitters is gold, guys. Not everything. I think my personal opinion, and I can't even believe I'm saying this because my personal opinion I'm really not interested in, and I don't want you to be interested in it. Really, I don't. But some of you I know for a long time, and you don't mind if I throw my opinion every now and then. But in my humble opinion, for most people, faith and doubt exist independently of anything God does. Faith and doubt exist independently. Meaning, a lot of us, we get strong faith when everything's going our way. When God's doing what we think we deserve. But all of a sudden, when all hell breaks loose, Israel witnessed the 10 plagues. They witnessed the parting of the Red Sea. They witnessed God's glory at Sinai. They witnessed manna from heaven. They witnessed water from a rock. And still the golden calf. It exists independently. You choose to have faith or you choose to have doubt, and that is your choice, not based on what God does. It's a weird thing that everything health-wise for me has fallen apart, but it's very strange. I feel happy. And I don't know why. But every now and then, this week I was happy, and then I don't know what happened. About 6 o'clock, last night, 6 o'clock before Shabbat. The voice came in. Man, you're a real sad sack. You don't have long. Isn't that sad? And I know people tell me that's not true. I had a bunch of ladies tell me I'm healed. Well, either God lied to you or the doctor lied to me. I appreciate your fervency, but it's all right. The healing for me is that I can still absolutely love God in the midst of the tribulation. Yes. Exodus 32, 7 through 10. This is very sad. Adonai said to Moshe, go down, hurry. Your people, whom you brought out. You see how things changed? Yes. When our children have an issue, they become your son when I get the call. Do you know what your son... I thought they were our children. The minute she says your son, I know it's not going to be good. I believe you had something to do with it. I mean, I'm sure you were there. I didn't do this on my own. But it changed. It's kind of sad. Adonai said to Moshe, go down, hurry, your people. I mean, that's 2 million people he was responsible for. Whom you brought up from the land of Egypt. Moses didn't bring them up. Clearly, he didn't perform those miracles. He's just a shepherd from Midian. No big deal. They have become corrupt, like it's on you. You know how people love to blame the parents for their kids' stupid choices? If you have a friend that's blaming you for something your kid did, they're no friend. I think you're in enough pain. The last thing you need for me to say is you're a crappy parent. Be careful sometimes. What you say might come upon you one day. So quickly they have turned us, so quickly, how quickly? 40 days. That's all it is. It's not 40 years. So quickly they have turned aside from the way I ordered them to follow. They have cast a metal statue of a calf, worshipped it, sacrificed to it, and said, Israel, here is your God. He's angry. God is angry. Just as I would be. Adonai continued speaking to Moshe. I have been watching these people. And you can see how stiff-necked they are. Now leave me alone. Moses, leave me alone so that my anger can blaze against them. I got my hand on my weapon. I'm pulling it out of my holster. I'm going for it. I can put an end to them. You saw what I did to Egypt. I can do it. No problem. Quick, too. And guess what? You're good with me. I like you, Moses. We'll start over. I can do it. I brought 70 into Egypt, and what did I bring out? 603,550 fighting age men. I can do it. You don't like them. They're a pain in the butt, aren't they? You see the temptation here, guys? Maybe now you do. This is how you have to read the Bible. You got to put yourself right there. You got to be one of them. You got to feel it. You got to feel what's happening. It's beyond theology. You got to make it a part of you. You know I've always told you that hundreds of times. It's the only way. So God informs Moses what was going on and that he's going to destroy this people. Now, did he ever call them my people? All along. Look at Exodus 3. I just want to show you so I'm not speaking with a fork. I don't know, he said, I've seen how my people, my people to your people are being oppressed, and I heard their cry for release because I know their pain. Very intimate, very caring. Therefore, come, I will send you to Pharaoh so that you can lead my people. Yes. Here's my question, and I don't think there's an answer. So let me just preface that. Was God really going to destroy the people? Now, it sure seems that way, right? If you go just by what it's saying, he was going to destroy the people. Let me ask you this. The kings had to come from Judah. If he destroys all the people, there's no Judah. Moses is a Levite. So he's kind of breaking his word. I don't think God was going to destroy the people any more than God was going to let Abraham destroy Isaac. I think God was testing Moses. And I think he does the same with us. Yes. Moses is an intercessor. He's leading God's people. I'm leading some of God's people. What are you going to be like, Greggy? You going to be quick on the trigger? Or are you going to intercede for them? Let's see what you're made of. That's what I think. I think he was testing them. He says they're stiff-necked. Look at stiff-necked. The word is kasher. In Hebrew, it means they're hard. Moses, they're hard. You know it yourself. They just complain. They piss and moan all day long. They don't do what they're told. They're horrible. They're cruel, even. And they're obstinate. You can't. Why stiff-neck? Because the neck moves the head, guys. I'm not saying, but some of you think you're the head of your family. Your wife's the neck. Trust me. And just to say, put it out there, it's out of order. Okay? Bernadette is just as involved, if not more. But I take full responsibility for what goes on spiritually in my house. I am the fall guy about that. If something goes wrong, it's on me. Because I am the head. I am the priest of my house, not her. And if God's going to control, if anybody's going to control my neck, it's going to be the Lord, not Bern. And if anybody's going to control Bern's neck, it's not going to be me, it's going to be the Lord. They were stiff-necked, obstinate, stubborn. And you just got to see what Moses does. This is stunning. This is why it says in the Torah, there's a prophet coming like Moses, a prophet like Moshe. Listen to everything he says. That's why in John 6, when they heard Yeshua speaking, they said, is he the prophet? Not is he a prophet. Is he the prophet from the Torah? Is he the one coming after like a Moshe, a great intercessor, but greater? And that's what I'm going to get to in a couple of weeks. I'm going to show you how much greater. But Moshe, make no mistake, he's the man in the Old Testament. Man. Oh, man. Listen to what he is tired. 2 million people, the complaining, the thing. We'll start over. I'll make you a great name. I'll make you the head of Israel. All right, Lord, let's do it. I'm tired. Anybody ever feel that way? Come on, Lord, let's do it. I'm tired. Anybody ever feel that way? I know a lot of you are tired. I'm tired too. If I could bring Yeshua back right now, believe me, nobody would stop me. But look at what Moses does. Probably one of the greatest intercessors, if not the greatest intercessor in the whole Bible. Moshe pleaded with Adonai. Can you imagine? Begging him on his face. Crazy, guys. He says, Adonai, why must your anger blaze up against your own people? Now he's saying, they're your people. Whom you brought out of the land of Egypt with great power and with a strong hand. Why let the Egyptians say it was with evil intentions that he led them out to slaughter them in the hills and wipe them off the face of the earth? Turn from your fierce anger. Relent. Yes. Begging. Don't bring such disaster on your people. Remember Abraham. Remember Yitzhak. Remember Israel, your servants. You swore by your very self. You promised them. You promised. You says, I'll make your descendants as many as the stars in the sky. I'll give all this land to them as I've spoken to them, to your descendants. They'll possess it forever. Man, he's using 3 strong arguments to appeal to God's heart and God's reputation. It's so beautiful. How many of us do this? We don't operate in mercy. I'll tell you what Passover is going to be about for us. About being delivered. Not from a disease. Or if there is a disease, it's lovelessness. And living in the newness of life, mercy and grace and compassion and forgiveness and overlooking and not being so uptight and so easily offended by every little thing. It's not giving God glory. We're not showing the people his glory. A parent can quote scripture. Clearly, we're not going through what Moses was going through. And he's not saying, you know what, God, fine. I don't want to start over, but do what you have to do. Pleading and begging. Pleading and begging on behalf of people. Kindness and caring. We all have to work on this. Yes. This is not easy, guys, because it is not natural. The natural thing to do is to slap back. That's what natural man does. You swing back. That's what we're taught. That's not what supernatural man does. Not only does supernatural man take the slap, but they have the audacity to say, forgive them, Father. I'm begging you. It's not like we just look at Yeshua, or we look at Moses and go, hey, they were. Now, yeah, Yeshua is a tough act to follow. Because we say, man, he was the God-man, you know. He had a natural mother, but not a natural father. As far as I know, Moses had a natural mother and a natural father. And then later on, we'll see where Paul has the nerve to say, I would consider myself accursed. Yes. Romans 9, the quintessential theological letter for the Christian community. He says, I don't know why nobody sees that, but you know what he's saying? I'll go to hell for the sake of the Jewish people. Save one, I'll go to hell. Save one, I'll go to hell. And yet, Paul says, imitate me. And the whole Christian world quotes Paul. Colossians and Ephesians. How come they don't imitate him with the Jewish people? Where did that theology go? Oh, I don't hate them. I just don't really care about them. They're a non-issue. Oh, they're a big issue. The king is coming back. They'll cry again. They will cry again. They will be in the midst of it, and they will cry again. And guess what? The king is going to come, but he's going to roar from Zion like he never roared. It's going to be a whole different ball game. And if I were you, Jew or Gentile, believer, I'd be on his side. I'd be found on his side, interceding for his people. Yeah, That's what Passover is going to be all about this year. Not, Rabbi, how many matzahs do we put in the matzah tash? Who cares? You stupid idiot. How hot does the maror have to be? We got it all down. We know how to do a Seder. We have no idea the spirit behind it or why we're doing it. We have a history that we're connected to of people that were delivered by the grace and mercy and compassion and patience of Almighty God. We have had an exodus. We've been delivered by the grace and mercy and patience and compassion of Almighty God. And guess what? It's not over. Our final deliverance is coming. Let's stand up together. You guys have all the scriptures. There's a lot more. We'll get into him next week a little bit more about him. I want you to really see Moshe's heart, not just in his intercession, but when he intercedes a second time, it's over the top. And then, of course, we'll finish off where everything starts, guys. We're going to finish off at the cross. That's where you find me. I'm sorry that I'm so boring. I'm sorry that I don't tell you where the ark is. But listen, I'm going to tell you something. I told this to a friend of mine the other day. 30 years ago, I met the Lord at the cross, 30 years ago, I met him, and I fell in love with him. And then I got involved in ministry. And now it's 30 years later. You know where you find me? Right back where I was. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. And may the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace in the name of the Prince of all peace, Yeshua. Yivarecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Yo'er Adonai panav elecha v'hunecha. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. God bless you. Shabbat shalom.